The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. We appreciate you joining us today for our continued discussion on navigating the shifting media landscape, with this session's focus on audience targeting. While folks are still arriving, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Tammy Angelo, and I'm with the Los Angeles Times Media Group, and I will be guiding you through today's session as your moderator. Our keynote speaker today is Earl Baer, and Earl is the Director of Digital Advertising with Los Angeles Times Media Group, and I'll introduce Earl in just a moment. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Ray, if Ray is on the line here, to give a quick thank you and a shout out to all of our chamber members and associates. So Ray, if you can hear me, I am going to take you off mute. All right, so we may be having some technical difficulties with Ray, but I will absolutely speak for Ray and on behalf of the entire local Orange County Los Angeles Times team, including Ray. We would all like to express our appreciation for this opportunity to create a digitally focused marketing webinar series and in partnership with the local chambers. And we would like to additionally recognize the hard work of all of those participants, as you see here on the screen. Kyle Woosley, the president of the Costa Mesa Chamber, and Diane Pritchett, executive director of South Coast Metro Alliance, Jerry Wheeler, CEO of the Huntington Beach Chamber, Laura Hankels, executive director of Laguna Beach Chamber, Heidi Gallegos, the CEO of the Brea Chamber, and Steve Rosansky, CEO, and Pam Smith, director of the Newport Beach Chamber. And then finally, Carlos Nunez, the vice president, and Carlos Barona, the director of the OC Hispanic Chamber. So again, thank you all. We absolutely appreciate this opportunity and this time to share our knowledge with you. And before we get started, we are going to go over just a few participation or housekeeping items, if you will. For those of you that are new to the GoToWebinar series, you have a little control panel on your screen, and it gives you a couple of different options. One is to join us via audio. So you see there's a radio button there to toggle between telephone and your microphone and speakers of your computer. Your option, you can do either or. The default is set to your computer. If you'd like to call in via telephone, all you have to do is click on the telephone radio button there, and it'll bring up a phone number and a PIN, and you can do that as well. We will be on a listen-only mode, but we absolutely appreciate your participation, and we look forward to any questions that you could submit. So again, that control panel, you may just see the bar in the control panel. As you see in the upper left, there's a little orange button with an arrow. If you click on that orange button, it will open the control panel and then collapse it so you have more room on your screen. So absolutely send in some questions. I'd love to see your questions now. It can be comments as well, or anything you'd like to hear from the Los Angeles and Orange County Los Angeles Times team. We'll stop periodically throughout, and then of course take questions at the end. So we will be recording the presentation as well and sending that out and making it available to you shortly after the session. And you can see at the bottom, we also have a Twitter feed going. So hashtag LATMG Digital, and we'd love to tweet throughout the session and afterwards as well, and most certainly let us know if there's anything else that we can provide for you. So I think with that, I would like to go ahead and welcome and introduce, as part of our continuing efforts here at the Los Angeles Times, we want to be the most relevant force in voice-shaping digital advertising company in Southern California, offering to our advertisers and chamber members access to what we know is the largest audience reach in Southern California and nationally with our digital services that help small and mid-sized businesses as well as enterprise-wide businesses get their word out. So we encourage you to visit us at latimes.com, and of course reach out to Ray at ray.arroyo@latimes.com as well. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Earl Baer, And Earl is the leader in a local media space here in Los Angeles for more than 20 years. He's served in senior management roles across various mediums, including print, radio, TV, and digital, and as well as integrated media sales. And with leading media companies such as CBS, Los Angeles Daily News, and of course, the Los Angeles Times. So Earl, I at this time will probably just kick off with a poll here and see if we can get a poll, speaking of audiences. And hold on just a moment. All right, so if you all wouldn't mind taking a quick look at this poll and just giving some feedback about what industry best represents your company. That would be great, and we can take a quick look. I see some results coming in. Thank you so much for your participation here. All right. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share it out so we can all take a quick look at that. As you can see, hey, Earl, for stories and other things, you can tell we have 43% of our folks from real estate, travel, and hospitality. We've got a little retail, food, restaurant, shopping, and home. Thank you very much for your participation in the poll. All right, so again, Earl, I guess at this point, I will definitely turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, sounds good.
All right, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us this morning. This is the second in what we hope will be an ongoing series of informative webinars about how to navigate the new media landscape. We started this series a few weeks ago, and I hope that some of you were in attendance for that. That first session that we did was more of a general overview of the shifting media landscape and all the changes that have occurred over the past several years. You know, businesses big and small have the same needs they had many years ago, getting the word out about their business to prospective customers and being found and being seen when people are looking for their type of product or service, and managing the conversation about what people are saying about your business. But with the advent of digital media and the fragmentation of the media landscape, things have changed pretty dramatically. Last time we kind of went over some of the key things that businesses want to look at when they're looking for media partners or advisors to help them navigate this landscape. First and foremost is access to audience. You know, being able to have enough of a pool of potential consumers out there to tap into to serve your advertising messages to. That's really key. And it's not just the size of those audiences, but also the quality of the audiences that are very important. So we kind of went over that a bit in our first session a few weeks ago. Secondly is messaging and delivery channels, making sure that the audiences that are being reached, you know, there's the old saying in real estate, location, location, location. It is important what type of site environments or messaging environments your ads are being deployed through, and so that was a very important quality as well. But a lot of our chatter after the last meeting really kind of honed down on that third element, and that's effective targeting. Several years ago, we did a marketing survey here at LA Times where we surveyed a couple of hundred small to medium-sized businesses in Southern California and asked them a whole array of questions about, you know, what would compel you to work with a company or a partner to help you to advertise. And it wasn't just digital, it was overall. And it had attributes such as, you know, the type of medium, it had to do with price, it had to do with the products that they offered. But the one that came to the forefront among all those was, show me you can reach my target customer. And really, that makes a lot of sense because you can be advertising to a broad audience on a great looking website, but if that site is just not reaching your target customer, it's not going to translate into business for you. So effective audience targeting is really, really key. And so today we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that particular category of effective audience targeting and all the things that you can do digitally that you can't do with some of the other traditional mediums out there, and what makes digital advertising ultimately one of the more efficient ways to target to your prospective customer. So first off, advertising. A lot of people, when they think of advertising in general terms, they think of Don Draper, and they think of kind of that broader reach type advertising. The big ad on the Super Bowl that you see every year. Going through vertical magazines, fashion magazines, sports magazines, and being served advertising that targets that specific category vertical. Or a little bit more specific to a local market, running in local mediums like the Los Angeles Times. It might be local TV or radio stations or cable outlets and targeting the LA market. But in all these cases, you are talking about scale and broad reach. Now, this is where we get into size of audience. Yes, you reach a lot of people through these various verticals, but you're also not really able to target as specifically as you might want to. And again, anytime you're talking about large scale or broad audience, you're also talking about a significant budget as well. So being able to hone that audience down into specifically the type of target audience that you're looking for is really, really important. And that's what digital has to offer that many mediums don't. Let's talk a little bit more about newspaper advertising, and this could be the case with a local cable outlet, or it could have to do with a local radio station, but you do have the ability to target a little bit more specifically with this medium as opposed to running a Super Bowl commercial. Number one, you're local. You can run in the local market. Let's say that you're a financial services company and you're looking for people who are interested in investing in a 401k or retirement program. Here you can target to the LA market through the LA Times. Here you might look at a specific section of the newspaper, like business, that is more likely to reach that target customer than other sections of the newspaper, and you'd serve your advertising to that reader. But imagine if you could do this with newspaper. Imagine if you could set up your advertising program so that only those newspaper readers who are fitting the profile of your customer, they're in the market for financial services, they have the income to invest, your ad would only appear in those newspapers delivered to that particular reader. That'd be pretty cool, huh? Well, obviously we can't do that, but you can do that digitally. So imagine this, taking it a step further. Imagine you've identified who that reader is of the LA Times, and wherever they are looking within the newspaper, your ad is likely to appear. Depending, it could be in the food section, it could be in the entertainment section. We're not following the section, we're following the customer and the potential consumer who might have an interest in your product or service. So that's really the magic of digital advertising and how technology and capabilities within the past few years have really stepped up to a new level in terms of being able to identify a specific target customer and serve advertising to them that's relevant to what their needs are and what they're looking for. So audience targeting has become the forefront of how we're advertising now digitally. There are big brand campaigns that occur for new automobile introductions and new electronics products and movies that run across a wide spectrum of large reach websites. But for local businesses, that's probably not the best solution because there's going to be a lot of waste there. So what we can do digitally is we can look at the three key targeting channels for reaching consumers, and we can hone down on who that audience is. First thing we look at is geographic location. So, you can, again, reach the exact type of consumer who might be in the market for your type of product or service, but if they're way out of your service area, that makes no sense to target advertising to them. So we have the ability to target by geographic location. And then demographic profile and behavioral profile are two other ways that we can get a little bit more tight in terms of reaching the target customer that you're trying to serve your advertising to. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into each of these. First off, geo-targeting. Even here in the LA market, this is a big market. The LA DMA is about 52,000 square miles, and for many of our advertisers, they're not interested in reaching the whole market. They don't want to be serving advertising to Ventura County if you're based in Laguna Beach, because it's unlikely that people are going to make that drive or come down to do business with you. So our ability to geo-target is really, really key. And there's two ways in which we do that. Number one is with desktop advertising to desktop computers, and to a certain degree also with iPads. We can serve down to the zip code level. So basically we can advertise to just an audience within a zip radius or within a specific series of zip codes, and target advertising only to those people looking at that site in those zip codes or within that radius. The other thing that we can do is with mobile, we can even get more specific down to the GPS level, latitude and longitude. So people looking at a mobile device on a mobile network, if they have their mobile location enabled, which most people do these days, we can serve advertising to them across websites and apps based on exactly where they are. Where this becomes relevant is, let's say that you're an event happening at the Irvine Spectrum, and it's happening on this Saturday, and it's right now 10 to 2 p.m. on July 11th, and you want to invite people in within a 5-mile radius around that event. You can actually serve mobile advertising during those hours in a specific radius around that location and invite people to come to that event. That's pretty specific targeting from a geographic standpoint. Now let's say you're a financial services company and you want to reach somebody in the Anaheim area in a 20-mile radius, and you want to offer your financial services to somebody. You want to find somebody who's been actively looking for information about taxes, or they're doing their taxes and they want some information about how to invest their tax refund. We can serve advertising specifically to that person, that audience profile, based on where they are at that time. So geo-targeting can be very specific. But geo-targeting alone is great, but then we also want to look a little bit deeper into who they are. A couple other things just before we get to behavioral and demographic profiling, though. Some tactics as to why you'd want to use geo-targeting aside from just, where they are. Think about if you're a specific business and your trade area is really a 5 or 10 mile radius around your business, you probably want to confine your advertising to that radius. Let's say you are an event like that event at the Irvine Spectrum, you can target advertising specifically in a fenced area around that location as it's happening. And then the other thing is you can identify locations where people might be that might need your product or service. A good example of that is we put together a program recently for a company that sells sports and entertainment tickets, and we targeted advertising to fenced areas around big entertainment venues around the LA and Orange County area during showtimes. So if there's a concert going on, let's say at Staples Center, we could serve advertising to audiences in the Staples Center area, in the parking lots, in that radius around the Staples Center during that show to promote other concerts of a like category that those customers might be interested in. So location advertising is really, really key. Second is demographic targeting. And just in general terms, demographic targeting is the type of information you'd know about somebody based on U.S. Census data. This would be age, gender, household income, home ownership, kids in the household. We can find people based on demographic profiles, based on cookied information that we have on people's computers and matching that up with audience data that matches up with that audience profile. So for example here, let's say you're a company that's looking for females age 21 to 34, household income $75,000 plus. We can identify that target customer, again, with geo-targeting in mind as well. And if it's a spa that's targeting that specific audience profile, only those people in that geographic area that fit this demographic profile will see that ad. If you happen to be on the same site, but you're reaching a male who's age 55, who doesn't have an interest in your product or service, your ad won't appear with that specific target audience. Behavioral targeting is a little bit different. So unlike the age demo, kids in the household, that current kind of demographic information that you'd hear from a U.S. Census result, behavioral targeting has to do with consumer interest. These are based on people's interests in terms of the types of content they're looking at, the type of articles they're reading. It could be the type of credit card purchases they've made. A lot of the purchase intents, the things that you're looking at, the things you're searching for online are cookied and matched up with consumer data, and we can match to that. So let's say that you're a company that's interested in looking at somebody who is expecting a tax refund and they're looking for a way to invest their tax refund money. We can find this person based on the type of searches they might have been doing recently. We can look at the type of sites they've been looking at. This gentleman's been looking at real estate sites, and we know he's getting some money back, so we know he might be interested in buying some real estate. We know he's in the Orange County area, and we know that he's been reading articles about real estate as well. So all this data is collected, and basically this customer is profiled as somebody who might be interested in investing in Orange County real estate. So with that, we can find sites that have either content about Orange County real estate and serve advertising to him there. Or in this case, going back to the point about we're following the audience, the target audience, not so much looking at the type of content they're looking at. We know that he's interested in this sort of product or service, but we know he's also a foodie, so he might be looking at a recipe on a website. We can serve the same ad to him there as well. So we're matching up the right customer with the right message at the right time, and that is really becoming the most effective way that we see advertising working. How do we tell that? We tell that by looking at metrics. You know, another nice thing about digital advertising is we have a lot of metrics about how people are engaging with these ads, how many people are clicking on ads, how long they're staying on websites once they've clicked through. So we know that if we're matching up with the right target customer at the right time in the right place, that the advertising is more likely to engage. And we see it time and time again, rather than doing broad advertising to a general market, but instead looking specifically at a type of customer, you see the click-through rates and the engagements just increasing dramatically. So just to summarize what we've been through so far, geo-targeting, demographic targeting, behavioral targeting, these are mainstays in the way that we target through digital media these days. And some more things to kind of look at when you're thinking about what type of targeting for your type of product or service you want to be choosing and looking at. So, you know, first and foremost, it's the who, what, when, where, why. Who is my target customer? Think about who they are. Are they in a specific area? And what is that defined area? Let's start with geography. Do they have a certain household income? Do they have kids in the household? Do they need to be homeowners? If you're a custom shutter company, for example, you probably want to be reaching people who own their own home. We can target to that. Or people who are interested in a specific type of product or service. And then the other thing that's really important is, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to drive traffic to a specific storefront location or specific locations within a certain area? Are you more interested in just branding and awareness, making sure that when people have the need for your product or service, they're likely to be thinking about you? That might have a bearing on how you advertise as well. Or do you need to drive traffic to your website to engage them with e-commerce? That may have a bearing on not only who you advertise to, but it may have a bearing on how the advertising itself looks, how you create your advertising campaign and what it looks like. So just to kind of summarize what we've covered so far and the differences between targeting versus that broader scale audience reach, the really key thing about looking at specific targeting is you're going to make a much more efficient use of your advertising budget. There's far less waste. You know, in the digital world, we charge a cost per 1,000 impressions is generally the pricing that we use to advertise, to basically pay for digital advertising. But, you know, I had an advertiser make a good point to me recently. He said, you know, we used to buy just tons of impressions at a cheap cost per 1,000. He said, but we're really not doing that anymore, because even if you're charging me, let's say $10 per 1,000 impressions of the ads that are targeted out to the marketplace, but really only 1 out of 10 of those customers that it's reaching is my target customer, I'm really paying $100 a 1,000. So is that really efficient? He said, I'm willing to pay a little bit more than that, but if you can reach my target customer, that's where I'm going to be seeing more result for the expense that I'm putting out toward my advertising budget. Know who you're reaching. So again, really important when you're partnering with media companies or advisors to help you with your advertising. Make sure you know who you're reaching. It has to do not just with the audience targeting that you do, but the types of sites that you're on. The other thing that's great about targeting is you can gain additional insights into your audience. We have advertisers who try different messages to the same audience and see which call to action resonates most with that audience and which ones they get the best results from. So you can actually do some testing and learn more about your customers and what they might be most interested in and what would drive them to call you up or come to your location to do business with you. And first and foremost, targeting versus broader scale helps eliminate waste. Your ads are going to be served more likely to a person who's more likely to be a customer for you. So the other things to look at is when you're talking about your target marketing partner, again, make sure that they have access to audience. There's a lot of very good sites out there, but they have a very limited audience. And when you get into targeting on top of a very limited audience, you have a very small pool of potential customers that you might be reaching. So you want to look at a partner who has large scale, not just with their own site, but potentially offering you extended reach with other sites as well. Credible environment, we talked about location, location, location. It really does matter. the resonance of what somebody thinks about your product or business when they see your ad on a well-respected information site, entertainment site, news website differs very much from if you're on a gossip website or a fraternity blog. And many of the ad network type solutions out there deploy ads across all kinds of different websites. You want to make sure that the site or the sites that you're running across are reflective of the type of customer that you're trying to go after. And then solid targeting technology. Targeting can be done well, and it can also not be done well. And so when you do engage with a marketing partner to help with your digital advertising, do ask them for performance reports to see what they're seeing in terms of audience engagement. Are they looking at your campaigns and managing them and optimizing them over time? You know, not every type of advertising is pitch perfect the first time around, as most of you probably know. So once you start advertising with somebody, you need to start learning from, especially digitally, learning from what intel and data you're starting to see and make adjustments and fine-tune that program over time. And it'll keep performing better and better if you have a partner who understands how to use that technology, use that data, and keep optimizing that campaign performance over time. So, quick plug for us. We try not to make these too advertisey when we're talking about our capabilities or what customers should be looking at with regard to their digital media partners. But just LAtimes.com is by far the largest local media website in Southern California. We have an extremely broad reach in this market. We reach over 4 million consumers every month just here in the LA market, and within that large pool of audience we have the ability to target specifically to the audiences you're trying to reach. And again, nothing better than a news or information website as far as a messaging environment through which to convey your advertising call to action. So with that, I'm going to bounce it back to Tammy, and I'm not sure if Janet's on the phone, but we do have a special introductory offer for those people who are on this call today. And if you guys want to walk through that, then we'll be respectful of people's time and see if there's any questions, and then hopefully wrap up. Tammy?
Thanks, Earl. Yep, thank you, Earl. It's Tammy back again. So there were a few questions that came in as well. Before we go to the questions, I will note that this slide that's up right now is actually one of the handouts in the seminar, and one of the buttons in the little plus sign on your control panel, it says handouts. If you click on that, you'll see the PDF OC Chamber digital packages. Feel free to click on that and download that document as well. So Earl, a couple of the questions, these two may go together, so I'll say them together. Is having a mobile-friendly website super important, and how is the mobile version different from my main website?
Great question, and we will be diving more deeply into mobile in one of our upcoming sessions. The importance of having a mobile-friendly website has become increasingly more important over time, and just within the past several months, that importance has even gone up even more dramatically. Google, as you know, drives a lot of the traffic to a lot of the World Wide Web. And Google just changed their algorithm recently as far as how they favorably look at websites when people are searching for a particular type of product or service, or just doing a search. And if your site is not mobile friendly, which means that people can easily view it on a phone or another smaller mobile device, Google will not rank you as highly as they would if you are mobile friendly. And so it's vitally important that your site that people are able to read your site. You know, Google's interested in customer experience just like any other business. So if they're leading people to sites where people just need to pinch and squeeze and go over the top to try and read content on that site, it's not what they look at as a favorable option to suggest through their search results. So question about how does it differ from your regular desktop site. There's a couple of ways in which you can go about fixing that problem. Number one is you could completely do a brand new website that's a responsive design website. And by responsive design, that means the newer types of websites will actually adapt the formatting based on the size of the screen that a consumer is looking at. So as the screen gets smaller, the same content would appear, but it reconfigures to be able to be viewed on a smaller screen. So the text and fonts might increase in size. Some of the graphics may reconfigure, and so basically as you expand or contract the size of the screen, the website adapts to it. That sometimes can be a little bit of a costly endeavor depending on how much content you have on your website. Another viable option, though, is you can get just a separate mobile site. And what happens when you set that up is you can configure it such that if somebody's looking at your site through a phone, they will automatically be directed to your mobile site. And that mobile site may not have the depth of content that's on your regular desktop site, but truth be known, people on their phones generally aren't doing a lot of in-depth research and looking at pictures and reading a lot of information necessarily about your product or service, depending on what you do. They may just want to know your phone number. They may want to know your location. They might want to see a restaurant menu. Those sorts of things can be accomplished pretty easy through a separate mobile site, and those sites can be pretty cost efficient in terms of setting those up as an alternative. And it is really, again, very important if you're at all dependent upon Google looking at you and driving traffic to your site when people are searching for your product or service, you need to get in the mobile game.
Thanks, Earl. So just a couple more questions. These two also look like they go together a bit. What's the first step I can take to start my targeted campaign, and how do I target my audience and get the most ROI for my business? So what do I do first, and how do I target the audience for the most ROI?
Well, I think first and foremost, it comes down to taking a good look yourself at who your target audience is. We go out to talk to a lot of clients and do consulting about digital advertising and other types of advertising. It's funny when you go out, a lot of our advertisers really, they kind of have a feel for who the audience is, but they haven't really thought too much about it or how to articulate it. When you're dealing with a media company or a media consultant to help you with your advertising needs, it's really important that you can clearly articulate, here's my target customer. And hopefully some of the guidelines we showed you today will help you to kind of define what sort of attributes you're looking at. First and foremost, just think of a map and think about radiuses. It's not always just a 5-mile radius around your location. And if you're a business that does business with a more affluent consumer who has more spending power, there might be certain zip codes within that 10-mile radius that are more important than others. So it's really important to kind of visualize a map and circle those areas, those neighborhoods around you that would be the most likely customers for transacting with your business. And then second is, thinking about who they are, what kind of basic profile they have. Are they homeowners? Do they have kids in the household more than likely? Do they frequently dine out if you're a restaurant? Are they frequent theater goers? There's a lot of information about behavioral capabilities that we can tap into with regard to profiling people. And the one that sometimes gets a little bit forgotten but is important is time of day or day of the week. We recently worked with an advertiser that has very different customers during the week versus during the weekend. During the week, they mostly target businesses around their location. So that's one thing, and they're trying to drive more business for lunchtime or during the afternoon. It was an entertainment and shopping venue. So during the week, they're looking for people who are working around their area. But during the weekend, they're trying to draw residents who live in a broader radius around their location. So we can adjust that. We had a different sort of campaign going during the Monday through Friday business hours, and then we shifted that to a different type of targeting tactic for the weekend. So it's really thinking about who your audience is, and again, being able to convey that in a as detailed format as you can to the consultant that you're working with, and again, listening to the consultant and seeing if they're really understanding what your needs are. They should be asking you more questions than they're telling you about their capabilities to start off. One of the things that we really strive to do here with our sales teams is, don't go out with a presentation and just showing all your capabilities. Ask questions, find out what the audience need is, and then match that up specifically with what solutions they have. So, you get a good feel for an advertising consultant. If they are talking more than listening, chances are they're just trying to sell you something and not really trying to understand your needs.
Thank you, Earl, and that is it for the questions coming in. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. And as a note, the exclusive chamber member special packages do offer a 20% discount on 2 of the types of advertising that we've talked about today, geo-targeting as well as targeting specifically in banner ads, and then a deeper dive into targeted email campaigns with geo, demo, and behavioral opportunities available. So we'll include the handout in the confirmation email that you get along with the recorded series. And once you leave today's webinar and you receive that email, we appreciate your response on the short survey as well, so that our next seminar can be sure to include the topics that are most important to you. So thank you very much, and on behalf of all of our presenters, I would like to thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.